Hey everyone, I am Tracy Rogers, and I am the CEO and host of Sanford's new Moms of Sanford Gripe session. This is a podcast where we spill the tea and get real. I'm a therapist and a mom, and we are here to create a safe place where we can vent, we can laugh, and just support each other through the ups and downs of parenting. That's what this podcast is about. We wanted to get moms together to just discuss, real life situations, and just keeping it logical, right? And so throughout this podcast, we're going to dive into some good, some bad, some pretty messy moments. Thanks so much for, joining us and tuning in to the first episode of Moms of Sanford Gripe Session. I'm Tracy Rogers, and I'm so glad you're here. Let's do this.
I'm really curious, Tracy, how was your traveling up here? And also same for you, Rebecca, with leaving Kyler and whatnot.
Yeah. It's always the same for me. It's like 3 days of prep or a week of prep, and then like before I even get on the plane, it's text messages and questions and just the functions of the house. I mean, it's hard.
As much work to try and get away as it is.
Yeah, it's like prepping for a vacation before a vacation, right? And I mean, I love all sides of it. That's the hard part, right?
I love all sides, but I was talking to a friend about that the other day because I'm a single mom, and so I'm prepping to come up here. I have to have child's care for her, but then you have to remember things like get the trash cans to the side of the road because you're gone during trash day. And also the QR code for your kids pickup needs to be in a Ziploc bag under the mat in front of your door. And if you forget that, your child's care literally cannot pick up your child. And it's just that weight of like, if I miss one step and then I'm halfway across the country, what happens?
It's that mental load.
Tuesday morning.
Worry about how she feels if that happens.
Well,
right?
Tuesday morning, I get a text, did you order my food from my 11-year-old? And it's like, yeah, it's covered until, I got it. Thank you. I got it. It's covered till Friday, but it's that check and balance, and you worry like, oh my gosh, I forgot something. And then at the same time, what's the week look like? What do you have going on this week at work, right?
Yeah. And for Beckett, you can't forget the food. He eats 8 meals a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, food
he does.
is very important.
What about you, Katie?
Yeah, well, I just thinking too, like I want to like acknowledge that I feel very grateful for obviously being a mother. Like I know that there's privilege in that 100%. And I'm really grateful for my job. So I see all of that and I can be appreciative and grateful for all those things. And two things can be true at the same time because it's also really, really hard. And so like I just want to preface this conversation with that as like I see or I'm aware of like all of the great things that I have, but I think I want to be able to share with people that understand like how difficult it is and how like just mentally draining and emotionally draining. Like it's obviously worth it. Well, you think it's worth it, right?
Yeah. So, well, how old are they now? 2 and what? 3 and
5 and 3.
5 and 3. So yeah. So I know for me and Ray, even like I'm even with Rebecca. I mean, Beckett's 11 now, so I went through this now twice, right? So I'm watching the two of you go through it. So I became a CEO when Beckett was 2.
Wow.
And so I missed the 2 to 6 every birthday, right? And the guilt of that. So you got the mom guilt.
Oh, guilt. We got mom
guilt.
Mom
And then
guilt.
you have well, this is my job. I've kind of signed this responsibility to my teens. And so I could say like, yeah, watching what you guys are going through now and some of the, conversations that we've had, and Ray,
Yeah, I think during my active parenting years, when the kids were little, not only there was a job, there was my kids, but I also was a daughter, a granddaughter, and a wife with someone that had a pretty intense career. And so I remember thinking at the end of the day, there's just not enough of me to go around. There's just, what parts can I give to everything and still be doing a decent job at supporting. But a lot of that was, caretaking for a couple generations above and one below. So yeah, it was a lesson in, how much of me is there for each person, but also a big lesson for me was learning to delegate. Do you guys have that? Like learning to delegate
Well,
things
mine
and
is
trust in other people.
Well, I think not as
Stressful.
maybe it's delegate, but I had to be okay with not. I think being high achievers like we are in the profession. Rebecca, your role now. I mean, all of our roles now is not feeling like a failure. I really felt like a failure, and this just happened. I'm still learning this. Like a month ago, when I had to hire someone to cut my grass, or you know, automate my dog food ordering, like the things to simplify.
Yeah.
Well, but those are things that someone else can do. They don't take your level of CEO talent. So those are the
Yeah,
things
right,
where you can
right.
start peeling off, I think is what I discovered is
Have you guys ever read The Rainbow Fish?
no.
Yeah.
Where she has all of the
I
sparkly
love that one.
scales and everyone keeps asking for a sparkly
Uh-huh.
scale, and so you keep handing
Yep.
one over until all of a sudden she only has one sparkly scale left, and then someone asks her for it and she's like, but that's like the thing that made me who I was, and now they're all gone, there's only one left. And sometimes being like a high achiever in certain positions, but also just working moms in general, like it feels like you're giving a scale away to everyone, and you don't know how to like keep your
Right.
own pretty sparkly scale,
Mhm.
or like even have, for me it's even like the breath at the end of the day to be Rebecca, or what that even means, because I'm giving so many parts
Right.
of myself to, whether it be work or, in this group, I'm the single mom. And so I also want a partner at some point. And so how do you make sure you're giving your scales away to the right people, places, the right amount of time, like, and not giving them all away and losing yourself completely.
Well, that's a great analogy with the scales, and also thinking about what does that scale look like. Like today, my daughter's 6, and I'm going to paint her nails. That's going to be our event for the day. So that there's something to focus on that she will remember as well, so that it's not just being split in a million directions for the day, but you've got a scale that you're giving away, but it's one that you've planned, and it's a memory, or baking a cake, or when my son was little, I would take, this was in the old days when fax machines had those big rolls of paper, and I would take a big long roll of paper and tape it to the floor with, crayons and markers and stuff. So when he got home, I could do the homework but make it fun. And, so being planful about it helped. That helped a little bit.
Well, yeah, and Katie, how do you, in your role, right, as a chief operating officer for how many years now?
Like 4
So
years,
your
4 or 5
whole
years.
your kid's whole life,
I was
right?
gonna say that. Yeah,
Do you-
Sloan is the age.
The
I
whole.
mean, she was born in 2020, and that's kind of when a lot of our growth started and took off. And yeah, I mean, just even like the phases of her life already and how it's matched my different phases in my career with Sanford. Like, I feel like I've worked so hard for this career, and I love it so much, and I love our team so much, and I'm so thankful that I have that job. And at the same time, like, of course, I love my children, and so there's always that pull on the inside. Like, I honest full transparency, I'm jealous of you when you come up here to travel, because you are able to give all of your focus to work, and you can like stay late or come in early and do all of those things. And there's a lot of days that I want to be able to do that, or I wish I could stay late. Some days I do stay late, and then there's always the guilt and whatever, but like, to have an excuse, not to say like not go home, but like to
be focused.
to give
Right.
100% to one thing. I'm like, yeah, I wish I had that.
I remember we've worked together the longest in this group, and when you had Sloan, she you were gone on maternity leave, so being on the other side of it and not having you there, and we were all like trying not to call or ask Katie for anything. It was hard, like it was a big void of not having you there. But I mean, as a mom, I was myself. In retrospect, I was like kind of worried,
Yeah.
about it, and so
I
it was a balancing act.
Yeah, quick story about that. So I came back to work. So Sloan was my first, 2020. I came back to work, and I was still trying to breastfeed. And we're in behavioral health and we're in residential care. And so things happen 24/7 all day, every day. And we were much smaller than we are now. And so I would go and find a little office to close myself into. And you know how it is, like you gotta wait a second, like so then like I would just start going and then my phone would ring and it would be like so and so wants to AMA or so and so called in sick, like we need you. And I'm sitting there like
You can't stop.
I either stop pumping so that I stop feeding my child my breast milk, or I go deal with this issue. And
Then what
I would
happens when
always
you get home?
I would always go deal with that issue.
Yeah, and then you have to.
And then my supply tanked, and then it turns into all the other things, and it's fine, right? Like formula, that's great too. But that was like my first experience with like the working mom kind of thing, where I was like, oh, like this isn't gonna work, and I remember feeling so guilty.
Speaking of that, I had such a similar experience. I'm actually surprised we haven't talked about this at different points, but coming back to work. Well, first with maternity leave in general, like I felt guilty not being at work, even though I'm with my newborn. And but then yes, coming back and breastfeeding, I remember there were times that I was pumping and had my door closed and then was on speakerphone with somebody on the other side of the door just to try to maintain.
Stay productive.
And no matter what you did, you ended up feeling like you were making the wrong move. And I think that continues as they get older too. I mean, Tracy, how often have we talked about it? Like, so this trip that I'm on right now, so my parenting again is a little bit different. I share custody of my child, and so I only have her 50% of the time. And so 50% means everything. But I needed to come up here on Tuesday. My Tuesday night is a Kyler night. And so I have to make that decision, and it's incredibly hard, and you're pulled both ways. And you just are under the weight of like either decision. Actually, you don't win. And you end up just having to be okay with that and know that when I get back, she gets fun dinner. And she also conned me into a movie night. So she gets both. Kyler is a master negotiator. And so, trying to give her a sparkle scale in, some sort of way, because I did have to give up an extra night with her. But I think like it really is hard to come to that conclusion of like, no matter what I do, there might be someone that's upset or someone that gets impacted, whether it be work, my coworkers, or my child, or my family that then has to pick up the pieces for me because I don't have a partner at home.
The thing that happened in our situation is at some point with two kids and a job and a husband who traveled all the time, and then of course my other generations I was helping caretakers, there was no balance. There was no balance to make. Everything was getting shortchanged, and we made the decision that I was going to stay home. It made sense for me to stay home because David was in building a really exciting career that we were able to be a part of, and so we were able to blend our family life with his career. We were very fortunate in that. But I do remember it was hard. I mean, I have a law degree and I thought that's what I was going to do. And when we made that decision, we said, the kids are the ones that are really probably paying the price. So, put my career on hold. That was a tough decision. Now, the end of the story is after doing that and really having a wonderful almost decade of that sort of family life, traveling and having the kids and being home, I decided to go back to school because after that one, I was like, I don't know if I want to practice law. So I decided to go back to school. Well, my kids were middle school and high school, and they were so excited. They got their own key, and they would come to school with me, and they would study and so it was really a positive thing then when I embarked on this chapter of life. But that was a tough one. To figure out like there isn't going to be a balance here. So
there's a female CEO, and I can't remember if she was CEO of Yahoo. I got to figure that out, but she's interviewed and she talks about how the whole like balance thing is bullshit. There is no perfect balance. It's not going to happen. You got to try. At any point in time, something's going, to your point, gonna quote unquote suffer, and you just have to.
Kid's gonna eat McDonald's.
Your kid's gonna eat McDonald's.
People like judge
Fun
a lot.
Literally McDonald's.
We eat dinner in the car every single night. I mean, you guys know. I mean, when I'm home, and Beckett's dad is away, like we have to eat. I do work. I have a little stand in my car, my laptop. I have internet for my car now because we still have to do the job, right? I was going to ask you, Ray, like if you had to give yourself advice of when you were working, what things would you change? Because I think now, like looking at, Rebecca and Katie, I would tell my younger self a couple things about raising, Beckett and work and the important part of all of it, really.
Some of the things I would change are being less uh, attached to my real estate, my home, and not worrying about all the little details and the things that seemed important at the time. And so I mean, anybody can die with a clean house, right? But if you can relinquish that, then that frees up a lot of time. So that would be the first one, I think. It's just not worrying about my surroundings or the surroundings around the kids so much because
mine's bedtime. Bedtime matters, right?
Yeah, it's been one of my biggest struggles.
Still the number one thing that could really And he it's probably 3-4 years ago, well, maybe even more than that. Mommy, leave your cell phone downstairs because the light, like you text and you email and at the time, right, like running a pretty busy psychiatric hospital, it was 24/7. And so even to this day, he says, anytime I'm home, who's putting me to bed? And he says, leave your cell phone because of the light.
Yeah.
I'd say put your cell phones down.
Now, you guys, I gotta admit, I didn't have that struggle because
Yeah.
we didn't have that access.
Technology
But
now,
technology now, that would be tough.
Yeah, I had.
How do you guys do that?
I had a rough one, not that long ago actually, where I was trying to put someone to bed and we were just laying together. I don't know, reading a book, and I got a call, and it wasn't a call that no, I could have not answered. Right, that's the message. But I did answer, and then I got going and trying to work through the problem, and yeah, exactly. And she's saying, "Mom, get off the phone, get off the phone." Then she starts crying because she wants me off the phone. I don't want to leave her alone in the room, so I'm sitting there on the phone. She ended up falling asleep crying, and then I got off the phone, and then I started crying, and it's just like, what is going on here? Like, that bedtime's hard.
Yeah, bedtime is incredibly hard. I have really tried to prioritize bedtime recently, and I just keep reminding myself that, like, she's 6. Like, compared to the world, she's so incredibly little. Like, this matters so much. But in relation to that, something that happened the other day, I was sitting on the couch and I was texting work stuff, but was like very engrossed in what I was doing. And Kyler was over by her Barbie house, and I would have missed this if, like, I'm glad I didn't, but it would have easily been missed. She's sitting in her chair, she's facing her Barbie house, she's playing, and she just says, I wish my mom would play with me right now. Didn't even like ask me outright, but it was like a moment of like these text messages or her. And again, it's like somebody's going to suffer no matter what, work, my kid, but like just the impact me sitting on the couch still in close proximity to her had. And for her to just, say that to her little 6-year-old self. I don't know, they teach us, like, and I know you all know this, like they teach us in those moments. And it was like one of those bedtime reminders to slow down because we only have so many moments with them. And at the same time, like, it's so incredibly hard when we are in incredibly fast-paced careers that have to pivot just as quickly as our little 6-year-old brains are pivoting, or however old our children are.
So I have a phone story, this pre-cell phone story, and I was on it was cordless, of course. I'm not going that far back, but anyway, I was on the phone, and my daughter was about 3 or 4. No, she was about 5, and she was tapping me, and I kept giving the just a minute, and I was talking to a neurologist about, he's on my advisory board, so it's not like I could just say, hey. Anyway, she tapped me, and I kept doing the strong, hold on a minute. Well, then she tapped me and she handed me a baggie, and I looked in the baggie and there were some bugs in the baggie, and she said, my head. said I gotta go. Anyway, so that,
gosh.
you know, I remember thinking, okay, this call is more important, but that's how I found out she had a little license going on.
Which
But
Bryce is dramatic.
yeah, that's right. So, but the story about my son is when he got to high school, and the high school in our community is about 3 blocks away. You know, it's a easy walk. And for 4 years, I drove him every morning because that was the time I had him captive. I knew, you know, what his favorite song, A Manic Monday on Mondays, and we play that, and it was, you know, 5 minutes, but you know, it meant a lot just to have that designated moment. And I'm not a big time person, but he is. Mom at 7:23, and we need to leave at 7:24, and so anyway, that kept me on track too. But that was fun because we had that little bit of time.
I've learned, I feel like so balance is such a myth. It really is. And I do think though that there's a way to, um, I guess, situate your days to have some balance. And so I think when I was really, really tied to like the 8 to 4, 9 to 5, I had nothing left to give. And I think some of that did have to do with being a single mom or not having a partner at home to tap in and out when needed. But now it's like, okay, so if I have to get her to the bus at 9, I'm going to spend that morning with her because school kind of starts a little bit later, or we're going to go down to the bus stop a little bit earlier so she can play with her friends. That's what she wants to do. Um, but then in the evening, like that might also mean that she's around when I do another 30 minutes to an hour of work for a different reason. And I have tried to, and I know that this is a privilege for me too, speaking of privilege, because you know, you're on site and it's different. But I feel like I have to rearrange my day in a certain way to get any semblance of like normalcy. Although I don't know that anyone in this room at this point knows what normalcy is. I'm not sure.
We're in the behavioral health.
I guess our normal.
Yeah.
That is something comforting though, that the four of us sitting here talking about this, the commonality, we all understand. I mean, you understand every mother's stress, but we understand the type of stress that we're under in this particular, you know, part of the work world, the behavioral health world, where, you know, you're impacting lives, you're saving lives, and there's a lot of emotional fuel that goes into that. And so having that commonality and talking about it, we don't have to say that to somebody because we all sort of get it, you know.
But yeah, exactly. But our partners don't always, you know, if we have a partner, they don't always get so my husband's a software engineer. So he spends his entire day on the computer and isn't talking to anybody. He works from home. Which again, I have the privilege that my husband's an involved partner and works from home. But my job is very opposite. I'm talking to people constantly and it's fast paced and all of that. And it's so hard at the end of the day to even like try to explain what my day was like in comparison to him. And that can feel isolating at home. So it's like really, really helpful to have, you know, you guys in that sense.
I agree.
I was talking to my stepmom about this the other day because I had made a comment about, you know, all day, every day, we're making a ton of really hard decisions. And sometimes those hard decisions, and they've been incredibly sad at times, are like life or death decisions. And they're on, you know, it feels like at the time, especially, that they're on your shoulders. And so then I get home to, you know, in my case, now having a partner, and then you have to make all the decisions. Well, I mean, I think everyone in this room, though, mom wise, also has the default parent too, right? So even if you have a partner, we're doing the dentist appointments, we're doing the doctor's appointments. You know, I'm in the back of my mind, Kyler has 2 cavities right now, and I'm like, when are we getting those filled? Because it has to be 2 different appointments, all the things. But I had made a comment to my mom that I felt like I didn't have help within my village right now. And, you know, she got a little upset about that. And she was like, I would drop anything to take Kyler anytime, which is true. She had Kyler last night. But I think the bigger piece was when I come home, well, when I sign off at night, and I've made all these hard decisions in this fast-paced environment throughout the day, I'm alone with my kid, and then I still have to make every decision from there on. And sometimes it feels too hard to then call mom and say like, hey, I need help right now in this moment versus a planned out, can you babysit her in a week or two on a Tuesday night that I have to travel?
It's always hard to reach out and ask for help when you need it. And usually by the time you ask for it, it's too late.
You're
right? You're already in it.
Too much planning.
You know, you had an interview for your profile, and you said something brilliant about blending family life and work. And you said
Tracy's like, did I?
you need, you integrate them so that your family appreciates and understands what's going on in your world. But you said a beautiful statement about being able to integrate both. And I know we're talking about, and I said it, there's only so much of me in different segments to go around, but you had a whole nother perspective on it that was really beautiful. In fact, I don't know if I told you this, but I used it in a presentation that I gave.
Remember,
It was really good.
Or Marilyn must have just been interviewing, and I must have just been
You
rattling.
did.
Yeah. I mean, my son Beckett, like he knows. I mean, and whenever we're driving to baseball, Teams is on, and oftentimes, just so you all know, he responds to you guys because I got to keep
That's
it
the
going.
only time he
Yeah.
responds to me. If I'm on the phone and I'm like, hey, Beckett, he's like,
Yeah, and I think so he responds, so he does know, and he knows there's designated times, right? Like he now knows that when I'm on a camera, like he has to stay away. And I think, they have had to walk on eggshells too, and they start to learn, and I think, I don't remember exactly what I said in that way, but I think being exactly who we are at work, because sometimes we're not the same in my past life until now at Sanford, like I had to be somebody different in front because I came, you know, through behavioral health and different companies that I've, been at. I've had to be a different person than I have at Sanford. And I think that's what's so great about us and the leadership roles that we're in is like we get the mom.
Absolutely.
yeah,
I get when I called Katie and Teddy, Teddy's
screaming.
2 or 3, he's screaming in the background and he doesn't communicate. So what Teddy is saying, because I had it, and at some point that screaming stopped, and I look back and I'm like, from 2 to 4 is my guilt phase. I mean, I was at Beckett's birthday party. I told somebody this story, I think this week actually. And I'm at Beckett's 2. I mean, he's 2, like not even 2. His birthday was like a week later, and the hospital called, and the ACs were down because we had a storm. And it's about 10, 15 minutes, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I said, at the time, told his dad, I got to go run to the hospital. I'll be back in 30 minutes. Took me 5 minutes to shut the AC down, turn it back on, and I'll be back. I didn't get home till 2 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I missed his birthday. And I honestly don't even know if he got cake. I'm not in any of the pictures. And I'm seeing that now. Right. And so integrating it is saying to work like, hey, you know what, I'll be there, but I'm going to be there in maybe 2 hours, 3 hours, and not feel guilty about it. But integrating it to me means just be who you are as a mom. Like I think as moms, we don't have to have separate identities. Like
that
for a
was
long
the core
time,
of it,
I think
right.
like for me, like my identity is not in being a CEO. It's not in being a mom. It's not being, it's as a human being, who am I? And, I have a very strong spiritual background. So that's where my identity is at because I can't be all of those things all the time. Right. And being able to say to myself, you know what, today I did good. These are the things I did. Yeah.
When I found out I was having my daughter, and I had a friend who I was, I think in my late 20s, and this friend of mine was in her 50s, and she was a adolescent social worker, and I wasn't thinking I was going to have a baby then, and I said to her, I said, what advice do you have for me? And her answer, which I have used all of these decades, is children are resilient. She said children are resilient, and they, yeah,
and they're unconditional.
He reminds me.
They're very, very unconditional because they don't.
I came to my dad. I actually had tears in my eyes because I was like, hey, it was about traveling sometimes on Tuesdays. And I was like, I only have her 50% of the time. That's one of my nights with her. And so these times that I do have to come up on Tuesdays are really hard for me. And he just looked at me and he said, Rebecca, children are resilient. It's okay.
It gives you comfort to think about that
all the time, how, that's true. But I think also being in a space that Well, I think it's twofold. Like being in a space where you can say, hey, I'll do this thing, but 2 hours from now, because I do need to be at a birthday party. Or, for me, like I do need to take her to gymnastics or, whatever else it might be. It's still being accountable to like your work, but maybe a couple hours later.
Mhm.
Or maybe you do end up working at 11 p.m. at night sometimes, but it meant going to gymnastics earlier in the day. And I guess I always kind of thought that it meant that you had to work somewhere that you were able to say like no, which I do think is true. And being in that environment is really important. And I think we have that type of environment. But also I think like us as humans being able to just know that no matter where you are, sometimes you have to say, I have to do this later so that I can be with my kid.
So I guess like, as we start to like think about wrapping like this kind of discussion up a little bit, what would you give either a new executive? Because listen, I was never planning to have kids. Like it was not in our cards. I mean, we got news that we were having infertility, and that's a whole nother podcast because there's a lot of women that have that. But what would you say, like, in terms of what would you give a new executive or a new mom, folks? Because we have a couple of females on our leadership team, right? That like that haven't had kids yet. Just recently married, and so, what would you guys say?
I actually was recently talking to one of our admissions specialists who just had a baby, and she just came back from her maternity leave, and I was asking her how she was doing, and she was like, yeah, it's hard. And for me, I say like it is hard. I validate it is really hard, and also you're not alone. Like
Talk to one of us.
Talk to us, talk to people, reach out. So I mean, I think communicate and reach out to people and try to find your village, and that would be my advice.
So like thinking about, I mean, there is some prep to this, right? Like us talking through some of this stuff. And I was just thinking about all of the epic fails, Ray, as a mom. And I asked Beckett the other day, I was like, do you remember? And he's like, he didn't remember. Thank God. Beckett, I used to pick Beckett up from school. It was like daycare. So he started going to daycare at 16 weeks. Because I took a full 16 weeks off. And I was just telling this story the other day, and I asked him over the weekend, thinking about, us just having this discussion. And I would pick him up from school, and I would not want to stop at the facility, but then I'd be like, oh, I got one more thing to do. And my plan ops director said to me, he said, just turn your couch around. And that became Beckett's crib.
Oh, yeah.
And so, and he ate mac and cheese, and I had a high chair. My office became like his home, right? And so I just asked, maybe like, can you think of any, like, the bug story might be the top of the list, but
the baggie and the bug. I think that you, Tracy, are so sensitive about it. We live in a day and age right now where we're going to be hiring young women, newly educated women who are going to be on this track of having a family and having children. And you have high expectations of the work, but you also have that same that level of understanding for those working moms. And I think that makes all the difference in the world, is when somebody who's working with you and feels like, okay, she's gonna get it if I have to be in.
Well, it's because I went through a period of like 5 or 6 years where I wasn't really, my mind space was over here at a crying baby, but I couldn't focus. Like there was so much guilt that I like if I could have at the time, I probably would have left the field.
Yeah.
Right. And figuring out you
I'm
can
glad
have
you didn't.
you can have more than one purpose.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And everybody, I think, but Ray, you have met Beckett, and he's a pretty adjusted kid. I mean, he runs our life now, but I think getting him to understand that he can have a voice, but it's just the lost time. I would tell any mom.
It goes fast.
I tell
It goes
Katie all the
fast.
time, and I probably tell Wolfie this too. Like, just be a mom. You got to be a mom because of the type of people that we are. I mean, we're great moms and we're great workers, but you're gonna miss it. And at the end of the day, if God forbid anything happened or any of us left, we're gonna be replaced. You cannot be replaced as a mom.
That's right.
You can be replaced as strategic growth officer, COO,
Yeah, that's the one
owner,
job that
CEO, but you can never be replaced as a mom, right? I mean, when it happens and we pass on, like, what are we instilling in our kids, right? And for me, I mean, I've been a CEO at other places, and within a week you're forgot, right? Moms, as moms,
Mhm.
we aren't.
one of the joys of being in the position that I've been in for the last few years
Yeah.
as a mom who's raised her kids, but enjoying the stories that you bring
Yeah.
to work.
Yeah.
And it's so much fun to share that and feel like I know a little bit about your home life and your kids. And so, we're privileged in that we have created, I think, that environment.
Yeah.
I
And,
think so.
and that's a big
Yeah, it's so important.
differentiator.
I mean, Kyler came on site for
Yeah.
That's
Is that-
That was
almost a
so
full
great.
week.
That's the first time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we
I
brought
think
Kyle on
she
site.
I think she gave all of us a little bit of a spark for the
Yes.
week, or a little of that like kid
It lightens things.
innocence, and it lightened everything up, and everything felt, instead of heavy, like almost like we could laugh and, and
Simple
so,
things.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's the gift.
Well, the
of
gift of
being
Tyler
where we're
too.
at,
I walked into Jacob's office the other day and I noticed what she wrote on the wall.
Yeah.
It was "I love you" and stuff. And like we forget that
Yeah.
human piece that just, like, even in the space we're sitting in now, like just being humans, right? I mean,
Mhm.
spreadsheets and all that stuff. Like at the end of the day, like I always say, like, does it really matter?
Yeah.
We have to think
Mhm.
about that. Like and it does, right? Business, it matters.
Yeah.
But like staying in the space for a minute and saying like the human component of
Well, and
life.
I think when I first started working, it was in the day where, as a woman, you had to, we even had those little bow ties that we put on. So it was very much like we were in a man's world, and that's where you were competing and operating like. And so I would say that this whole conversation is a huge evolution
Oh yeah.
of blending, that all of those roles. And you're right, the one of mom is the one that will live on into eternity. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Good reminder.